Hello everyone, welcome to the session 5 of the project App Dev Track. So this session will basically be about providers. So we'll understand state management in Flutter with the help of providers. So here is a basic flow of an application that is a commercial shopping application. You can see if you add a product to your cart, it will get added to your cart. Then you can view your cart and buy that product. So this is a very good example of how state management works. So once you add a product to your cart, it will use state management to get it added to your cart in your local application. Then from there you can go to your cart and directly shop for that product. So now let's have a look at declarative UI. So Flutter is basically a declarative UI. So the UI you see on your screen can be represented as a function, where the function are your build methods that you write, and the input of the function can be taken as an analogy with the state of the application. So this is a gist of what the declarative UI means by, and we'll see more about it. So yeah, Flutter is declarative. This means that Flutter builds its user interface to reflect the current state of your app. When the state of your app changes, for example, the user flips a switch in the settings screen, you change the state and that triggers a redraw of the user interface. There is no imperative changing of the UI itself. You change the state and the UI rebuilds from scratch. So this is what is the meaning of declarative. If the state of the UI or the widget is changed, the particular widget or UI will be rebuilt from scratch. That's it. That is what is the meaning of being declarative. And we have already talked about this, how the UI changes from scratch and all. So yeah, so 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 what is state management? So before going into ephemeral and app state, so let's talk a bit about state management. We already talked about this in our first session. If you have missed track of that, I would recommend you to go back and watch that video, that particular part where we talked about stateless and stateful widget. There we talked about state. So basically state is the state of an app or a state of a widget is the particular scenario or the particular position the application or the widget is in. For example, as we looked through the example of the weather, so the state of the weather at a moment of time can be rainy, at the next moment it can be sunny, or also it can be windy. So this is how the state changes, and if you are building an application, you have to manage that state in your application. So that's where state management comes in. And when we talk about state management, there are two types of state managements: ephemeral and app state. So in the broadest possible sense, the state of an app is everything that exists in memory when the app is running. This includes the app's assets, all the variables that the Flutter framework keeps about the UI, animation state, textures, fonts, and so on. While this broadest possible definition of state is valid, it is not very useful for architecting an app. First, you don't even manage some state like textures. The framework handles those for you. So a more useful definition of state is whatever data you need in order to rebuild your UI at any moment of time. So this is what we talked about, right? So whatever data you need to build your UI. For example, there is a text widget on your screen which displays the some let's say the score of a match going on between two teams, for example two cricket teams, let's say. So that's that score is going to change, and for that we'll have to continuously we'll have to listen to the API, whichever we are calling, or maybe, so here we can use a web socket basically, because this will be a continuous call and this will be a two-way communication. So we'll listen to the WebSocket and we'll then, we'll update the text in our application, the score text. So that is what this talks about, whatever data you need in order to rebuild your UI at any moment in time. Second, the state that you do manage yourself can be separated into two conceptual types: ephemeral state and app state. So we'll look into what these two exactly are. So talking first about ephemeral state. So ephemeral state is also called UI state or local state. It is the state that you can neatly contain in a single widget. That is intentionally a vague definition. So here are a few examples. So do you remember we talked about set state in our previous sessions? So basically ephemeral state is set state is an example of an ephemeral state. So whenever you did set state, you change the state of a particular widget, of a particular, let's say, of a particular page or a screen. So that is an example of a ephemeral state. So here are also a few examples: current page in a page view, current progress of a complex animation, current selected tab in a bottom navigation bar. So all these states are ephemeral because they can be contained in a single widget. They do not need to be used throughout the whole application. They can be contained in a single widget and can be used in a particular screen. Now coming to app state. So yeah, state that is not ephemeral, that you want to share across many parts of your app. So this is the main highlight of the app state. So whatever state or whatever change or whatever feature you want to transport or you want to share across different parts of the application, and that you want to keep between user sessions, is what we call application state. It is also called shared state sometimes. So the old name was obviously shared state, and now it's called app state mainly. So examples of application state are user preferences, login info. For example, let's say you logged into an application using a login page. You got authenticated and you successfully logged into an application. Now what? Now when you go log into an application, you will see that there are different pages. For example, there is a profile page which displays the data of you. There are different more other pages which would require some usage from the login page. So that is where this login info example comes in. Basically what happens in some authentication is that whenever you log in, you get a token, and you are authenticated in your particular device until that token expires. So you need to transport that particular token from the login page to different screens, or to different widgets in this case, and then you can then only you will be able to use different parts of the application through the token. So this is just a very specific example of using application state. Next can be notifications in a social networking app. Next can be the shopping cart in an e-commerce app. So this we all already saw, right? So let's say there is a e-commerce app which has a list of products. So you select a product and then you add to cart. Now when you add to cart that particular product, so what happens basically and generally is that product gets added to your cart in your local storage, or let's say your app state. So once that is there, then when you go to your cart, you'll see all the products which are there in your app state at that point of time. Now you can just shop from there itself or do whatever you want. uh, Next is read or unread state of articles in a news app. So these were a few examples. We look deep into it, how the app state works, and this session is mainly about app state only. We have dealt with ephemeral state in our previous sessions when we talked about set state and all. So yeah, confusion that can easily occur is that what to use when to use ephemeral state, when to use app state. So it's not that difficult to get an answer. So the simple answer can be that whenever you are handling a single widget or a single component, then you should use ephemeral state. But as soon as you go to different widgets or different pages are involved or the whole application is involved in a whole, then you should use the app state. I can give you another practical example. So this is a very real life example. I was working on this project where we had to deal with some medical complications, and for that we developed an application. So the application was like, the nurses had to log in into the application, and there was a list of nurses and there was a list of patients. So what we did was that we called the list of the nurses once from the API, and then we stored that in our app state. We did the same for the patients. We called the list of patients once in the beginning from the API, and then we stored that in our app state. And whenever we needed to use the details of the nurses or the patients in anywhere in the application, in any different screen, or let's say in any different file for being more clear, then we just used the data from the app state instead of calling the data again and again from the API. So this is a very useful and a very real life example that can give you the reason why why you should use app state and why you should not. This was a case where you could not use ephemeral state, that is only limited to a single widget. What I talked about right now is that was a very specific case when I had to use uh, some data across the whole part of the application. So I might need the data somewhere else which is completely different from where I am doing the API call for getting the list of patients or the nurses. So this was just another example. Yeah, let's talk a bit about set state. We have already used set state in our demos previously. So yeah, set state is a ephemeral state management in Flutter. It is already discussed earlier, as I said. It is one of the easiest state management techniques because yes, it's quite easy to use. Just a few lines of code and you are fine to use set state. Then it only works for single widget and same page or screen. Yeah, so this is all about set state. Now here are some list of state management approaches. Right now these three are app state ones. There is provider. This is a simple app state management. We get the provider package from pub.dev to use this. There is riverpod. Riverpod works in a similar fashion to provider. It offers compile, safety and testing without depending on the Flutter SDK. So yeah, you can have a look at all these links. And then there is the famous Redux. So Redux is highly used by programmers in different applications for caching and managing state. So yeah, Redux is a state container approach familiar to many web developers. So you can read about Redux more here, and there is also a Flutter Redux package which you can directly use. Yeah, and apart from that there are much more these state management tools that are available. You can have a look at these if you want, and these are quite interesting. If you take a look, You'll find everything in the official documentation of Flutter, of the state management. I've taken a lot of content from there. You'll find everything, it's there. Yeah, so at this point of the session, what I would want you to do is that before proceeding any way further in this session, you should watch these 5 videos. So these 5 videos, I took them and I've compiled them, and these all are very short videos. These are not long, and I don't remember the exact length, but they should not be more long than half an hour each. So you can watch them in 1.5x or 2x if you understand the pace of the speaker, but do watch them. Do not proceed ahead without watching these videos. There will be your assignment questions coming from these videos also, so please make sure you give them a good watch, and understand everything that's happening. So if I remember correctly, this is about managing state in Flutter, the first one. The second is about, again, Flutter state management, but this was a talk in the Google I/O 2019. Third one is about providers. Fourth one is again about provider. The fifth one should also be about provider. Yes. So yeah, it's not that long, as we saw. All are around less than 30 minutes, except the second one, which is about 33 minutes. So it won't take a lot of time, but please give them a good watch before continuing in this session. Okay, so now let's start with what our main agenda was, which was providers. So provider is a very useful state management tool in Flutter. So how do we use provider? So there is a pub.dev package of provider. If you go and have a look, you'll see this beautiful package, and there is a lot of documentation. I'm sure nobody would be interested to read this lot of documentation, but we'll look at the important parts and we'll try to understand those. So in any package, you'll find this example tab. If you go here, you'll find a very beautiful and a very simple example that will help you to understand more about the particular package. And if you go to installing, you'll have all the commands to install the package. You can directly run this command in your terminal of the application directory, and the package will be added. Or what you can do is you can just go to the dependencies in pubspec.yaml, and you can add this particular line, and then you have to run this command flutter pub get. So this is a one-step process, and this is a two-step process. Whatever you feel comfortable with, you can use that. After you have added the package, then you should import this wherever you want to use. So this is the import statement for this particular package, and then here you'll find all the versions and what they do. I mean, you will find the documentation for those also. Yeah, and next, these are some stats of the users. So yeah, this is basically it. You can see this is a Flutter favorite package because it is quite popular. That is a reason, and it's almost supported on every platform on Flutter. So yeah. This was just a small gist of that. Next, coming to why providers. So yeah, there were a lot of options to use in Flutter for state management. Redux was a very popular tool, but why am I using providers? Because providers is also a widely used tool in Flutter basically, It's very easy to use, so any beginner developer doesn't find it much difficulty to use providers. So that is a reason. And then also so yeah, as you may have seen in previous tutorials, I have used set state multiple times. So yeah, we used this set state multiple times in our demo applications that we saw earlier. Now invoking set state will notify the framework that the internal state of this object has changed, which basically means that a rebuild will happen with the updated values. The problem with set state is that it will issue a build for the parent widget and all children widget. Please have a very careful look at this line. This is very important. The problem with set state is that it will issue a build for the parent widget and all children widget, no matter if the children widget are stateful widgets or stateless widgets. The other problem with set state is that it does not help in separation of concern, which basically means your separation your code into different layers: presentation, domain, data. So yeah, so the first issue is that, let's say you have a widget in a tree. So every widget is in a tree type of hierarchy. We talked about this. There are parents and then there are children. Let's say there is a row widget. No, let's say there is a container widget which has a child of row widget, and the children of row widget has, let's say, 3 different text. Now what you want to do is you want to change the middle text of the row widget, not anything else. So when you use set state with that, what this will do is that it will rebuild the whole widget tree. It will rebuild the container, it will rebuild the row, it will rebuild the 3 text. So this is a very bad very bad bottleneck for set state, because this will add to the latency of the application. This will increase the time reload time, and this will this will make the application look bad. And the other problem with set state is that it does not help in separation of concern, which basically means separation your code into different layers. So yeah, so this is mainly the first point reiterated. So there is no such thing as separation. If you rebuild something, it will get rebuilt from the parent widget to all the children widgets. So yeah, providers allow you to not only expose a value but also, okay, so not this. So yeah, this is where providers comes in. So providers will help you get sorted with this particular issue that we were facing due to set state. And also, as I said earlier, it's very easy to use. It's very intuitive also, and it's simple to understand and stuff. So this I have taken from the official documentation of the provider. So providers allow you to not only expose a value but also create, listen and dispose of it. What does this mean? Let's say you want to store, or you want to, as what example should we take here? Yeah, let's say the example that I talked about, the list of patients and the nurses. Let's say you want to store all the list of nurses in your app state. You want to use that anywhere else you like. You want to call that, you want to modify that, or you want to dispose that. So with the use of providers, you can do all of that. You can create your your list of nurses, and you can store that in providers. Then you can listen to that, or in simpler words, you can call that or fetch that anywhere else in your application. And also you can get disposed of that. You can get rid of that anytime you do not want to keep that, or anytime you want to free your memory when you have used that. So this is what this statement means. So yeah, do create a new object inside create. This is how provider will work. We'll look into this, but this is just a very basic syntax. And if you want to pass variables that can change over time to your object, consider using proxy provider. So this is getting more into the syntax, but we'll look into this. But right now let's not get confused with all the syntax and stuff. We'll have to look into the syntax, but right now the concept is more important of how providers work. So yeah, reading a value. Now let's say you have stored your list of nurses in the providers, which is there, which has all the data in, let's say, a JSON format. Now you want to read that data in anywhere else, in any else part of your application which is not in the same place. So how will you do that? So the easiest way to read a value is by using the extension methods on build context. So context.watch, which makes the widget listen to changes on T. Here T is the widget that we are listening to. Context.read, which returns T without listening to it, and context.select, this, which allows a widget to listen to only a small part of T. So right now only watch and read are important. The select is not that important right now. This will only work with a fraction of a part of the widget, not the whole part, and this we have to specify over here. So yeah, one can also use the static method provider.off, which will behave similarly to watch. When the listen parameter is set to false, for example here, then it will behave similarly to read. So yeah, this is a different implementation of the same thing that we looked earlier. So now, before going ahead with providers, let's have a quick look about change notifier. So change notifier is a class that can be extended or mixed in that provides a change notification API using void callback for notifications. In practical terms, other objects can listen to a change notifier object, and when the change notifier gets updated values, it can call a method called notify listeners, and then any of its listener will respond with an action. Listening to a change notifier is done by registering a callback, which is called when notify listeners is invoked. So yeah, let's say you are calling from an API. You're calling some data from an API. So there will be some lag, or there will be some time delay between the call from the front end to the actual response from the API. In that particular time delay, what you can do is you can use a change notifier. So what a change notifier will do is that once you call that API through the change notifier, once the data comes in, it will notify the listeners. It will use notify listeners function, and then it will notify whatever widget it has to notify, and from there the widget will get rebuilt once the data has arrived. So you don't have to wait for the lag and stuff. And why this how do you use this with providers? So a similar example, let's say you have stored some data in your provider, and now you want to call that data. So again, you can use the change notifier, and when the data finally arrives, the notify listeners will be called and invoked, and then it will be a smooth a smooth transition, or not exactly a transition, but a smooth flow of your data. So let's just look at a quick change notifier example without using providers first. So yeah, this is a class person which implements, or which calls which is with the change notifier. The person class has a name and an age. So this is name is string and age is an int. So when notify listeners is called, it will invoke any callbacks that have been registered with an instance of this object add listener. Okay, so let's say we are writing a function to increase the age. So we'll just increase the age by 1, and then we'll call the notify listeners. Now we are creating an object of the person named this and age this, and now add listener is a method on the change notifier class, which is mixed into person class. So when we do this, person dot add listener. It will listen to the notify listeners, and whenever this state is changed, or whenever the notify listeners is invoked, then this add listener will go and execute whatever is inside this. For example, let's say we call this person dot increase age. Whenever this person dot increase age will be executed, it should ideally only execute this function. This function doesn't have a print statement anywhere, but when we will run this code, we'll see that this print statement will also get printed on the screen. What does this mean? This means that whenever the notify listeners is invoked, the person dot add listener will also get called, and this will print value updated. Person is whatever 26 in this case. So again, add listener is a method on the change notifier class which is mixed into the person class. So this is what we talked about. Whenever this notify listener is invoked, this add listener will also get executed. So explanation. In this example, we have started listening to the person with change notifier class by calling add listener. Again, we have started listening to the person with change notifier class by calling the add listener. Now let's go back. So we have started listening to the change notifier class by calling the function add listener, which is here, which accepts a void callback function as its argument. When the age is increased, it will execute that callback. Change notifier is built into the Flutter SDK, and its purpose is to call notify listeners whenever data changes that should in turn update your UI. In the example above, I am not using it in widgets, but it's important to note that this class is not available in other Dart frameworks. This is not important right now. This is one way to encapsulate the state of your app inside of classes, but it presents a problem. If you wanted to use it in multiple widgets in different branches in your widget tree, it could quickly make your code super hairy and difficult to refactor. You'd basically be passing an instance of your change notifier all around the widget manually. And this is an exact problem that providers solve. So yes, so this was an ephemeral type. So this is an ephemeral ephemeral state management, and you cannot use this code basically anywhere else. You can, but then you'll have to use and declare this change notifier everywhere else in the application. That will become very messy and super difficult to write and use. So this is an exact problem that provider will solve for us. So yeah, now let's look at a quick demo on providers. Yeah, so first of all, I'll just show you through the presentation itself. So assuming you have Flutter and Dart installed, which already you guys have at this point of the project, we can start by creating a new Flutter project. We already know this commands. Flutter create by any name. We'll open the prospect.yaml file of our project and add the following dependencies. So we'll only add this provider package over here, which you can see, and then we'll run the flutter pub get command. So again, there were two ways to do this. Another way could have been, you could have just run the flutter command which we saw from the providers package. Then we'll create a data model. So we'll create a file named user.dart inside the lib folder of our project. This file will define a simple user data model, which you can see the user has a name and an age, as you can see over here. Now comes the interesting part. Now comes the provider. So you can see we are creating a file named user_provider.dart inside the lib folder. This file will define a provider class using the change notifier class from the provider package. So let's see what this is. So we are the class named is user provider, which extends the change notifier, and you can see that we are defining a user object, and we are defining a function named update user. What this update user will do is that it will just create a new user with the name and the age. Now, and after that is done, it will notify listeners that the data has changed. Next, we'll create a file named main.dart. So this main.dart is obviously there. This file will demonstrate how to use the user provider in our application. So yeah, so we, as you can see, we are importing the provider package here and the user provider class that we wrote. So here what we are doing is that we have a home screen by this title. Then this home screen will just display a text in the app bar, and now comes the interesting part. So what is the part which is here to be noted? So as you can see here, there is a column which has some text in it. And what is this text? There is some text named there is some text which is name and age of the user. So as you can see here, we are not directly writing any names here. We are just importing the provider, the providers, and then we are using that particular provider's user's name and age. So at the beginning there will be nothing, or there will be just NA printed on the screen because we do not have anything stored in our providers. But as soon as we click on this button, which will basically, it will update the user, or it will just call user provider dot update user, and this will update the user to this particular user with John Doe and 30. Once this is updated, you will see that you'll have an instant update in these two particular widgets over here. There will not be a rebuild of the whole widget tree. These two widgets will get updated as soon as the provider's data is updated, which is over here, which you can see, yeah, right over here. Once this name and age gets updated in this provider class, you'll see that this name and age will also get updated here. So yeah, you can run the app. I think you guys are already familiar with that. You should see the app with the name and age displayed as NA initially. When you click the update user button, the user's data should update accordingly. In this example, we have created a simple user data model and a user provider class that extends the change notifier. We have then used the change notifier provider widget to provide the user provider instance to the widget tree. Finally, we have consumed the provided data using the provider.off method in the home screen widget. Where have we done this? Let's see. Yes, you can see here we are calling this final user provider equals to provider.off user provider class context. So this context is basically the location of the particular widget in the widget tree. That is not that important, but what this means is that, where did we lose that? We have then used the change notifier widget to provide the user provider instance to the widget tree. Finally, we have consumed the provided data using the provider.off method in the home screen widget. So yeah, this is important. Remember that this is just a basic example. Obviously, in real world applications, you can use providers to manage more complex state and data throughout your app. So yeah, this is just a very simple application. In real life applications, there are much more complex states and things involved. Okay, so now as we have this demo, now why not let's just build this application and see for ourselves what happens. So I'll open my VS Code. I'll create a new application named Flutter Provider Example. Okay, once this is done, I'll just go to Flutter provider example. I'll open VS Code. So yeah, I have my VS Code ready. Now what should I do? I should add the provider package. So that I should go to my prospect.yaml, and here I should add my providers. I think the package version was 6.0.1. I hope this works, or else I'll just see what the version was. Sorry, it was 6.1.1. 6.1.1. Okay, I'll fire up my terminal, and I'll just run flutter pub get. So this pub get will install that providers package. Okay, does not exist. What have I done? Oh, sorry, my bad. This should be provider, not providers. Okay, so we have provider installed in our application. Now let's look at what next should we do. We shall create a new user model named user, which has name and age. New file user.dart. Let's paste this. What I was thinking that let's add some more fields over here. Final, let's say, let's add something boolean. Final is adult. Next, let's add one more parameter. Let's say not address. I was thinking something else. What can we add here? Name, age. Yeah, maybe let's add the address itself. What else can we add? Let's say we add phone number. Yeah, that should do it. Now we have added some more parameters, so we should call this in the constructor. Okay, now our user class is ready with these particular parameters, and this is how you create a data model. So this is a very simple use of that. There are much more complex things that you can do. You can add more functions over here, and you can do much more stuff with this. Now let's create our provider. So they have named this user provider. Let's do the same. Let's go over here and name this user provider.dart, and maybe just copy paste this for now. Let's see what else we can do with this. Okay, this has some, yeah. So what the issue was, that it says that non-nullable instance field of user must be initialized, or you should mark it late. So this says that this is non-nullable, and you should either initialize this over here itself, or you should mark it as the keyword late. So what the keyword late does is that it tells the compiler that this particular object will be initialized late in the flow of the application, not right now. So this is what it does. Now here we have to add the more parameters that we had. For that we need to add more things. Phone number, I think we had one more. What was that? It was bool adult. Okay, now let's just simply add those. Now we should be good to go. We have updated user. Now what? Let's call this create user, not update user. Create user. Okay, now when we are done with this, let's go back. Yeah, and this is what the main.dart will be like. I'll just, and this will be in my main.dart. Okay, fine. Okay, this should be create user. This should have more parameters. Is adult, address, phone number. Let's say the adult is okay. So this is the beauty of the GitHub Copilot. I think it's a very nice tool, but you guys should not use this at this moment of the project. This is for learning, and if you start using this right now, you'll learn. You'll not learn up to the mark to this project, and you'll have a lot of there will be a lot of delay. So please do not use any AI tool for the moment. I have done these things. I mean, I have built applications which are being used in real life. I have worked with different companies, and I am in a position right now to use these AI tools because I have learned this before. But for you guys, it's not at all recommended that you start using these. Just try to write on your own. Use Google, use Stack Overflow. That all is fine. But do the work yourself. That is my point. Okay. Now let's add some more. The more things that we had. So I added name, age, address, phone number is adult. Now let's just build the app and see. I hope this gets built in our first try itself. Okay, so there is an error. User has not been initialized. Okay, this is the error. Okay, let's see if this works. Yes, this works. So what I basically did was that late was causing an error because this is expecting some default values. So for now I have just put in some default values. That default value should come right over here. What I was thinking is that I could just put this as null and give it a try instead of using default values. It's better if I do this as null. Okay, will it work? That is the question. I don't think so. Okay, the argument type. Okay, so it cannot be. Yeah, so let's keep it as the default values for now. It's fine. And what now we can do is, we'll see it's getting, all the details are getting displayed over here. Okay. Okay, now let's try to click this update user. Yeah, so now you see, once you click this update user, all the data is getting from here. All the data is getting from the create user. The create user function is getting called. The data is getting created over here, and you can see the particular user. Now what we could possibly do is that we could create some more functions. Now let's say I want to change the void update, let's say phone number should be updated. So okay, I cannot change this because it's final. First of all, I need to go and remove this final from the phone number. Once I do that, now you'll see the error is gone, because what the final keyword does is that it makes it constant. So if you might have used JavaScript, there is a const keyword. So the final keyword is somewhat the same. It will make it immutable, sorry, it will make it non immutable, and then you cannot, sorry, it will make it immutable, you cannot mutate the object or the state, and that's why you cannot change it. So yes, let's try to update only the phone number now. Let's have one more button. Let's say only this button. Let's call it update phone number, and I'll just pass update phone number. I'll just pass the phone number. Okay, not this phone number, obviously I need to update this. Just hit in some random phone number. Okay, let's try this. Oh yeah, now you see, if I click on update user, sorry, I should not name it update user, I should call it. So yeah, now if I call it create user, and now if I see this, if I let's just reload this to restart the application. So you can see this has the default values. If I click create user, this will create a user from the providers. Now if I need to only change the phone number, I'll click update phone number, and the phone number gets updated. So yeah, this is how basically providers work and stuff. So here we are, where are we calling the providers? Over here. Here is it. We are calling this we are listening to the provider, user provider, from this provider.off method, and then we are calling that in our application down here. So you can do a lot of more other stuff. You can update, you can create, update, delete, fetch, and do all stuff. For example, now I can use this particular provider in anywhere of my application. I just need to update this, put the data there, and then use it anywhere I like. This is mainly used where the use case as I talked. For example, I fetch some data from my API, and I do not want to call the API at all places wherever I need to fetch data. This will increase the latency of the application a lot, and this will give a blow to the application. So in that case, I'll just use the providers, and I'll set the data once when I call the API, and then I'll use the data from the provider itself in anywhere in my application. This will save a lot of resources and improve the latency. So this is how state management in Flutter works. This was just a simple example, and maybe I'll put the link of this, put this up in GitHub, and I'll put the link in the presentation for you guys to refer. Now you can experiment with this a lot and do whatever you like. You can take this from the input of the user, from the user itself, and the details. You can play with it and see what you come up to. So yeah, we are done with this. Now what I would want you guys to do is that after you have so yeah, you should go out and build the previous application which we saw. Try build, but first of all copy paste the code which is there, then try to do some experimentation from your own. Then only you will understand what providers are and how they work. After that, you should watch this playlist, and I'm not asking you to watch the full playlist, and this is no way sponsored in any way. I just found out this good playlist on providers. So you should watch from video 1 to 10 is mandatory. Your assignment will be based in some or way apart from this. So watch video 1 to video 10, and then if you have more time, it's recommended you watch all the playlist. But for the assignment and for the course purposes, it's mandatory that you watch from video 1 to video number 10. Okay. Yeah, so these were some references that I have used in this session. And yes, that is it for now. This was all about session number 5. So yeah, and now we are heading towards the end of the project. So almost the main content that which had to be covered is almost covered. There are a few little things that needs to be discussed, and these were the main highlights that you need to get started with mobile application development in Flutter. We'll have a doubt session soon, maybe in the weekend, where we'll discuss more, and we'll have your doubts, and there will be a quiz too. So this quiz is announced, so you should have time to prepare, and the syllabus will be more and less, all of which is taught till now, till session 5 in the course. So yes, thank you for being till here, and all the best. Now coming to the assignment of this session, which will be related to providers and state management itself. So you'll have to build a very simple application. So the application will have only two screens. So let's say this is so this will be like a part of an e-commerce application where you'll have a catalog of some products. So you can include any product. This is just an inspiration. You do not need to follow this particular design. You can have any design, but the main idea should be that you should have a list of products, and that product will have a add button, and when that add button is clicked, a tick mark should be showed, which means that you have successfully added that product in your cart, which is over here. Now you can add multiple products to your cart. This is exactly like a e-commerce shopping website or an application. And now when you click on the cart icon, this should go to your cart, and you should have all the products that you added in the cart over here. You should also include some prices of these products. Now when you add all the products, all the prices should be displayed here, and the total price should be displayed at the bottom like this. And then you can have a buy button, and when you click on this buy button, all your uh, products from the cart should be removed. Now how you should implement this? So you should use providers. You should declare a list in the providers, and that list you will include all the products that are being added to the cart. If the products are being added to the cart, you will add the products into the into your providers list. Now this list should be first of all, you should create a data model of the product. What can be the parameters? Is that it can have some, let's say, product name, product price, and yeah, that's it. Product name and product price and a product picture. So you can use this product picture from the internet, anything you like. You can keep it like that, and you can hard code all the products. You should keep at least 10 products in your listing page. Now if you click on add button, tick mark should be shown here, and this should get added to your cart through the use of providers. No other state management techniques should be used. Now when you click on this cart button, it should go to a different page, and you should use navigation to travel to this page, and all the items that you had added to the cart should be shown here with the price, and the total price should be here. And when you click on the buy button, all the items from the cart should get removed. Also make sure you have a remove from cart button over here up beside the tick button. So when you click that remove from cart, the item should get removed from the cart. So this will be basically your next assignment, and this is what you'll have to implement.